Hello, I'm Janine Lanouette. A screenwriter's first task is to engage the viewer with the story. One way to do this is by creating a sympathetic main character. It is widely held that this means the main character must be likable. Well, I have a different idea.
The likable idea originated in William Goldman's account of writing Harper. In his 1983 book, Adventures in the Screen Trade, he describes being asked to come up with an opening scene for the credit sequence. Private investigator Lou Harper wakes up, dunks his head in cold water, and sets about making coffee. Uh-oh, nothing in the can. He sees yesterday's filter full of used grounds in the garbage, and puts it in the pot. He takes a sip, and heads out to meet a new client. Goldman tells of seeing the film in a movie theater and hearing raucous laughter at the coffee filter bit. He says, quote, "What the coffee moment really turned out to be was an invitation that the audience gladly accepted. They liked Lou Harper."
That this was an invitation the audience accepted is true, but it wasn't his likability that pulled them in. It was his vulnerability. A private detective, all cool and in control, is momentarily powerless and reduced to plucking a used coffee filter out of the garbage. This is the key. Show your main character at a power disadvantage, even for a fleeting moment, and the audience will be on board. It's fundamental to our human nature that we can't resist an underdog.
Some characters are innately sympathetic. A little girl living in abusive poverty. A grown man with a humiliating affliction. Some situations are inherently sympathy-creating. A young man in a brutal competition. A young woman hunted by Nazis. In these cases, the power disadvantage is built in.
But there are characters who do not immediately elicit sympathy, in which case you have to engineer it.
What if your story is about a group of people who have more than their share of power? This is what J.C. Chandor did in his 2012 film, Margin Call, about the skewed corporate culture that led to the 2008 economic collapse. These guys take home mega salaries. Why should we sympathize with them? The film opens with a sure sign that layoffs are coming. We meet Peter Sullivan when the HR counselor mistakes him for his boss.
Eric Dale.
So I'm gonna kill someone.
We then meet Will Emerson, who may soon kill somebody if he doesn't get more Nicorette gum.
You alright, Sam?
And we meet Sam Rogers,
The dog is dying.
who has just learned his dog must be put down.
So each key character is introduced in a vulnerable moment, which is just enough to get us on board for the purposes of the story.
What about a character whose whole persona is about being invulnerable? Like James Bond. In the opening of From Russia with Love, Bond is on the run and visibly anxious. Aha! A power disadvantage. But then the film plays a trick on us. It's a fake James Bond, in a training exercise for the bad guys. It's as if the film is saying, that's not our James Bond. He'd never let himself be hunted. No way.
So how do they get us invested?
When we meet the real Bond, he is engaged in everyone's fantasy, lounging with your lover by the side of a river on a beautiful day. And what happens? His car phone rings.
Come in, Univex.
And he is ordered into the office.
He's been asking for you all morning.
Bummer.
I'll be down there now.
So we are seeing Bond at the mercy of the one power that is greater than him. His boss. In later Bond films, this power differential only gets more extreme.
Utter one more syllable and I'll have you killed.
The beauty of all this is once you show your character at a power disadvantage, you then can have him or her go off and do all kinds of maladapted things, and your audience will stay engaged. In other words, you can portray an unlikable character if, rather than straining to make them likable, you simply introduce them in a position of vulnerability.
In The People vs. Larry Flint, writers Larry Karaszewski and Scott Alexander were fascinated by the bizarre behavior of the porn publisher. But they knew their audience might not easily accept one who profits from exploiting women.
You better not be doing what I think you're doing.
So they introduced him in his hardscrabble Kentucky childhood, being shot at by his drunken father. Writer-director Patty Jenkins, in her film Monster, wanted to explore the story of Eileen Wuornos, the so-called first female serial killer, another character not so easy to love.
I just wanted to talk to you, and I thought that if I bought you some beer, maybe you'd talk to me.
So Jenkins also starts in her formative years, showing us how the battered dreams of a little girl turned into the lonely desperation of a young woman. But the troubled childhood angle isn't the only way. In The Wolf of Wall Street, we are notified in the opening scene that we aren't supposed to like Jordan Belfort. He's betting on a dwarf-tossing game.
See that humongous estate down there?
We then find
It's my
out he's
house.
filthy rich, a drug addict, a little paranoid, and very reckless. By the time he tries to tell us that money makes you a better person, there's no doubt in our minds this is not the effect it's had on him. We are teetering on the edge of disengagement. Then we're taken back to his first day on Wall Street.
You are lower than pond scum.
Where we're shown a relative innocent
You got a problem with that? Jordan?
being corrupted by powers much greater than him.
It's his first day on Wall Street. Give him time.
You're able to do drugs during the day and still function, still do your job.
Well, how the fuck else would you do this job? Cocaine and hookers, my friend.
No childhood trauma.
Name of the game? Move the money from your client's pocket into your pocket.
Just a careful schooling in Wall Street ethics. See, in drama, the examination of human deviance is as essential as the triumph over adversity and the glorification of strength.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
But for the viewer, it needs to be personal, which for the writer is a purely practical matter. By engineering a sympathetic attachment, you enable your viewer to stay with your deviant character and all their outrageous behavior in order to reveal the larger cultural meanings that are contained in their story.
See, for a brief, fleeting moment, I'd forgotten I was rich. And I lived in a place where everything was for sale.
Laugh about it, shout about it when you got to choose. Every way you look at it, you lose.